can you give us a little bit of education, a bit of insight into the differences between functional mushrooms and the other types of mushrooms that are out there?
Definitely. So I always say all mushrooms are magic.
Wow.
Some are just slightly more magic than others. My main triggers were inflamed guts, poor sleep, lack of being able to focus and feeling very anxious. And I knew those were the things that I really wanted to target.
And how important to you is relationship building and networking?
It's everything.
Yeah.
It's everything. Health is something that is forever changing, just like us, just like the world. And if you're looking for a quick fix, you may find that, but it may not last.
And for MYCO and yourself, is anything exciting coming up over the rest of 2025?
We are increasingly working with perimenopausal and menopausal women.
Vivek, welcome to the Climb podcast.
Thank you very much.
Really,
great to be here.
Really excited to have you on today to talk about the world of functional mushrooms and to get into a bit about your story. Because I feel like we really connected over the last few weeks, talking a little bit about your journey, kind of your growth with MYCO, and obviously my interest in the wellness industry and obviously business and brands as well in the space. So yeah, welcome. Really excited to have you on today.
Amazing. Thank you for having us.
Of course, I'd love to start off with learning a little bit about your background and kind of how you've developed to get to this point now with MYCO and kind of where that initial spark of inspiration come from. Yeah, be great to hear more about that.
Definitely. So my journey into natural medicine actually started when I was 15. I was that kid who had really, really bad hay fever. Really, really bad. I was just constantly sneezing and just like, just blowing up all the time in school. It really, really affected me. There was a time when I was taking about 10 to 12 hay fever pills, homeopathic and Western medicines daily. And I just thought that this is not working for me. Until I found suffering at my uncle's house. And he just said, have you thought about injecting some Ayurveda into your routine? And I thought, tell me more. He introduced me to something called a neti pot, which means flushing out your nasal systems with saline solution. And I can tell you it absolutely changed my hay fever from the point of having multiple pills a day, really, really suffering, to having 70% less symptoms immediately.
Wow.
Since that moment, I realized natural medicine was something that really worked for me. And it wasn't till maybe 10 years later, taking it to a week before the COVID pandemic, I lost my mother, and it just changed everything for me. She was my champion, my best friend, my confidant, but I knew that at that time, the GPs were prescribing me, a range of different things. And I knew that I never really wanted to go down that path, just like I didn't want to go down that path when I was 15 years old. And I knew I need to return to what actually works for me, and that was natural medicine. Through the world of Ayurveda and natural medicine that I've always incorporated, I knew about mushrooms until I was reintroduced to mushrooms, and they had an absolutely transformative effect on my life.
Wow.
We've spoken about this before, but for me, my main triggers were inflamed guts, poor sleep, lack of being able to focus and feeling very anxious, really for the first time in my entire life. And I knew those were the things that I really wanted to target. And for me, the mushrooms Chaga, lion's mane and turkey tail really were truly transformative.
Yeah.
And I realized the majority of the people that can benefit from this don't even know that it exists.
Yeah.
MYCO was born.
Wow, amazing. Yeah. So it sounds like you out of struggle and out of pain, I guess.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Sometimes comes these revelations, let's call it, and kind of understandings of, okay, cool, like, this didn't work for me when I was 15.
Absolutely.
And you kind of get yourself into a situation where things, are going a certain way, and you decide, actually, I need to find other solutions. So
it's a decision.
Yeah. And so you mentioned things like Ayurveda there as well. Is that something that you were aware of from your kind of background, from your history and your culture for a long time previously?
Absolutely, yeah.
Is that how you kind of had understanding
I was
of it?
raised with Ayurveda from my great-grandmother to my grandmother to my mother, ancestrally passed down. Yet at the time, we never really knew the reasons behind it. Like, why am I having turmeric in my water? Or why am I having certain things or certain wraps? Because they don't explain, they just shove it in your hand or in your face, or, they tell you to do it. Until I realized and I researched the reasons behind it. And yeah, it's been some part of my life for
And so you mentioned that then you were introduced to kind of functional mushrooms through someone in your family, was it? Or was that?
No, it was an associate. As I developed my interest into the mushroom world, I developed, I got access into the professional bodies, the British Mycological Society. And so then through that, I was introduced to other professional mushroom groups, mushroom growers, and then kind of just naturally found it, really.
Wow. Amazing. Yeah. Sometimes the universe wants to take you through a journey, right? And kind of get you to a point without you realizing kind of how you even kind of where you started from and kind of you find yourself there.
That's exactly how it went. It very much found me, but I was willing to be found.
Yeah. Amazing. Love the way to put it. And so it'd be great for people to understand, and myself included, more about mushrooms specifically. And obviously, you know, people talk about psychedelic mushrooms or culinary mushrooms and, you know, the taste of mushrooms and using it in cooking and these types of elements. And definitely, you know, we're all aware that the industry is booming at the moment and it's only going to be getting bigger, I think. And as a pioneer, I guess, in the space at the moment, can you give us a little bit of education, a bit of insight into the differences between functional mushrooms and the other types of mushrooms that are out there?
Definitely. So I always say all mushrooms are magic. Wow. Some are just slightly more magic than others. So, of course, you've got the psychedelic element. And whenever I'm eventing or doing any of the things, there will always be at least 3 people being like, so are these going to get me high? Are you selling magic mushrooms? And I just say, oh, those are the ones under the table. Nice. No. I just say, look, these are completely non-psychoactive. Yeah. They won't get you high. They're functional mushrooms for your mind and for your body. And the difference is how they're classed. So functional mushrooms are classed as adaptogens as opposed to gourmet mushrooms that are predominantly just for eating. Obviously, they have medicinal values as well. When functional mushrooms are classed as adaptogens, that means they help the mind and body adapt to stressful circumstances and situations, just like the mushrooms are able to adapt to stressful situations. So by that, I mean they've evolved to have adaptogenic properties to droughts, fires, extreme freezes, to exist in minus 40 degrees. So through scarcity and very harsh conditions, they've created systems within themselves so they can adapt. And so when you consume the functional medicine and the functional mushrooms, you almost inherit and absorb those adaptogenic qualities. And so that's what differentiates obviously the psychedelic side of mushrooms that, you know, take you on a slightly different path, and the gourmet side of mushrooms, which are more culinary and for the taste, really.
Wow, that is super interesting. And so if a mushroom is psychedelic versus a non-psychedelic versus another type, is it based, like you gave an example there as to kind of if it was maybe good at environments which were more freezing versus more tropical? I don't know. How does, you know, is there an answer for why nature decides that one mushroom in one environment is developed in a certain way over generations, over years, to other mushrooms, or is that not something that's understood?
I think there absolutely is, because if you think about soil structure and the makeup of soil around the world, we have different qualities that will create some of the best conditions or some of the worst conditions. So say, for example, chaga, one of my personal favorites. This is in, you know, the boreal forests of Russia and Finland and in the Scottish Highlands. So they have qualities there in the air and the soil that will create that, which won't be conducive for lion's mane or perhaps reishi. So it's very much dependent on the area that it's grown, the air quality, and nature. Nature decides.
Yeah, 100% always. And you mentioned a few there, chaga, lion's mane as well, I think you might have mentioned. And so the key benefits of some of these mushrooms, why is chaga your favorite? Maybe we start off with chaga and you can kind of explain a little bit as to why that is, and then we can move into some of the others.
Definitely. Chaga, for me, as I mentioned, my bane, and I didn't really fully realize it, was gut health. I had IBS and I had, inflammatory situations, and I thought that was normal. Until I realized it wasn't. I was having a conversation with my sister, who's an oncology consultant in London, and I just said, "Oh, when I eat badly, maybe fried chicken or a pizza, it triggers my system, and then I have a bad belly, and then I feel quite inflamed. But it's only when I eat badly." And then she said, you know what, when I eat badly, my system's not inflamed. And it was a penny drop moment where I thought, maybe this isn't normal. Having this inflammation, to have this cramping, to, you know, feeling a certain sluggish way wasn't right. And at the time, I think I was, you know, caffeinated drinks, coffee, probably 2, maybe 3 a day if I was working very, very hard. I love the coffee culture, but I realized slowly that it didn't love me. And so I needed, and I was yearning for something that would, provide me the energy that the caffeine provided. I needed something that would enrich my gut instead of inflame it. And in this modern world that we're living in, we need something to reduce the inflammation, to give that energy and to give that nutrients that you're not absorbing if you're, you know, lacking in that department. And so Chaga really was that fix for me. Not only did it pretty much replace my coffee intake very, very quickly, it significantly reduced the inflammation of my stomach. And because my stomach was inflamed, I wasn't actually absorbing nutrients. So it provided the nutrients that I would actually need. And we're talking iodine, boron, selenium, nutrients that you don't get from the soil because our soils are dead. So it healed my gut and my inflammation, re-nourished my gut, and gave me energy to no end, to the point now where I haven't had a coffee in over 2 years, and I've never had more energy in my life.
Yeah, I can vouch for that. In terms of your energy, seeing you at events and the way that you're, you know, you're speaking to people. That's how I was drawn to you initially, you know.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
Of course. No, that's amazing. And you mentioned that because people, you know, it's becoming more popular, I think, now. Definitely, I've seen in the last couple of years, people swapping in. There's been things like Bulletproof Coffee, I think, over the years, and they were one of the potential starting brands for mushroom type coffee. But yeah, there's more that are coming out as well. And so it's interesting that, you know, you kind of saw that benefit quite early on with it. And, you know, have you always been quite self-aware well, especially after kind of what you were going through with your health and stuff, to kind of think, okay, you know, moving into finding more natural ways to support your body. You know, people might argue that coffee in a way is natural, but I think, you know, there's people look at different ways of healing and different ways of supporting the body in different ways. And some might argue that, you know, for whatever reason, your body was a bit more sensitive, let's say, to a coffee, similar to myself, actually, in ways. So yeah, is that something that you think you've always been a little bit aware of, or is that kind of developed over time, that awareness around looking more down the natural path and kind of trying to move into that?
From that kind of going back to when I was 15, I knew that I didn't want to be on the, you know, antihistamines and the this and the that. And, you know, literally I was taking 10 or more pills a day from February to September. And I just knew this wasn't me. It just really wasn't me. So I was always verging to is there a homeopathic option? Is there a holistic option? Until I found that option and I knew this is my lane. This is where I want to be. And, you know, almost 20 years later, I haven't really stopped traveling down that route. So yeah,
it makes total sense. Okay, cool. So we've got Chaga. We've also got a lion's mane. We've also got turkey tail. Turkey tail. There we go. I got that one correct as well. So I know in terms of what MYCO does, but, you know, generally, you know, MYCO's choices that you've chose for MYCO, I know there's, you know, hundreds of different mushroom strains out there. But if you could just talk a little bit about the particular strains that you've got with MYCO, and then also a little about the benefits as well, maybe. We spoke about gut health, but I know there's many different benefits as well. So
there's a whole world. And so from my history and where I've worked in optimization and working with people's in their homes, in their lives, their mental and physical health, and with it from my own mind, I could always see that gut health, mind support, sleep support, energy, and skin support would be something that I was always very interested in. And I identified that in many, 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 many people. Those, I believe, were the 5 pillars that people want the support on. And they spend a lot of time and effort and energy trying to rectify those issues. So, for example, the Chaga gave that natural energy, cleared the gut. The lion's mane, so this is the big one. It seems to have a marketing department of its own. It does. That's all about the mind, especially in the West. They say it's all about the mind. In the East, for example, in Japan and in China, they've always said it's about the gut. So it's all about repairing your neurons. And so the majority of your neurons are actually in your gut. So if you can heal the gut, the idea behind the business, if you can heal the gut, you'll heal the mind. And if you're sleeping and healing well at night, there's very few problems that will come your way. So Chaga for the energy, for the nutrients, for the gut health. Lion's mane for the mind, for the gut, fixing the connection between the gut and the mind through the vagus nerve. Reishi, it restores calm in the day and gets you sleeping incredibly regeneratively and deeply. So you can actually heal and repair and restore yourself. Tremella, fantastic for the hair, skin and nails. I always found that, when you're not looking after yourself, it's usually the hair, skin and nails that goes. If you're feeling confident outside, you can feel it even a little bit more confident inside. And so that really helped get my confidence back up. And of course, the turkey tail, the one specifically for the gut health, adding pre and probiotics into the gut, strengthening the gut membrane, reducing the inflammation, was exactly the 5 that I really realized would be very beneficial for a lot of people, let alone myself.
Yeah, exactly. And it's nice as well as a founder, you've got them anecdotes and you've got that experience to kind of back it up. And
it's a very personal story for me.
Yeah.
I take these supplements myself daily. I give them to my dad and my breastfeeding sister. I give them to my nearest and dearest, my community, and really believe in them and put my name to them.
Yeah, that's amazing. And one thing I was thinking about there also is just that balance, I guess, because at the end of the day, of course, you're not just taking these mushrooms on their own with nothing else around that, right? There's an element of kind of your nutrition as well and kind of your environment, and you're looking after your mental state and all these things. In terms of using the mushrooms in the ways that you're kind of explaining, how else do you think, alongside the mushrooms, in your experience, in your journey, have you seen, maybe it's nutrition or, looking after your, being physical fitness, these types of things? From your experience, what are the main pillars, would you say, that you think are really important to make sure that they're kind of also coming along whilst you're looking to explore the mushroom world as well?
Definitely. So I actually combine mushrooms with other adaptogenics, for example, ashwagandha, for example, brahmi, which is also called bacopa monterey. Doctors typically will not be taught about nutrition. Nutritionalists won't be taught about the glymphatic or lymphatic toxic removal system, and that's where I'm perfectly positioned in between. So I would absolutely say getting your nutrition right, because if your gut isn't working, you won't be absorbing any nutrients. So first of all, you need to get the gut health right to actually absorb the nutrients so you can actually build on. So the basis of the business is get your gut right to get your mind right, to get your life right. And so I would always say that combining mushrooms with a healthy lifestyle can be truly transformative. And I've found that myself.
Yeah, incredible.
And our customers say exactly the same. I'll share some anecdotes with you later on.
Yeah, please do.
But yeah,
amazing.
Really good.
And talking about customers and like people that are using these products, right? There's a lot of conversation around high performers and athletes now that are utilizing these types of supplementations and ways of working, but there's students and there's various different types of target demographics, let's call it. Who have you seen? Maybe some interesting demographics that maybe you wouldn't think could be benefiting from this.
For sure. So a lot of athletes, a lot of high performing individuals, moving in high pace environments. Also, young mothers and fathers is a massive, massive group that I feel I do a lot of work with. And, for example, you've just had a kid, your sleep is disturbed, your mind is just all over the place, you're having to work, you're having to perform under a lot of pressure. I ended up selling a lot to young mothers and young fathers, and then to their children to support them. One of the reviews that I'll share later is working with a lot of school kids who experience ADHD-like symptoms. So that was an avenue that became very, very clear, had a real appetite for natural supplements that could ease their performance, ease their anxiety, reduce their brain fog, on top of the athletes and the high performers. But those were groups that I provide a lot of support to.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. And it's really interesting to kind of hear about how different types of people can utilize this. And, and definitely now in the world, I think people are always looking for quick wins, right? And people are not prepared to always invest the time needed. Instant gratification, right? And your health. Sadly, yes. Yeah, you can't mess around with your health. Your health naturally, in terms of, from my experience as well with my history of Crohn's and now healing it naturally.
Absolutely.
And feeling in great shape now. I definitely know that it took longer than I thought it was going to take to
completely non-linear
to heal from it, right, and to kind of understand what was going on. But what's your take on that? Because as a founder of a business in this space, and as someone we've had conversations about this as well, I'm really interested to hear, knowing what we just discussed around kind of what I just mentioned around that quick win culture. What are your thoughts around that, and what advice would you give to your customers or to people that are thinking about, oh, I take this one thing and then tomorrow I'm going to be much better? Or actually, is there a possibility that they'll see results in certain ways and benefits quite soon?
I think consistency is key. Consistency is always key with health, because things are always changing. The world is always changing. The body is always changing. Our hormones are always changing. And so to find an instant plaster fix is the culture that we are in now. But I would suggest that trying to slow things down, trying to be consistent, and almost looking for that delayed gratification is often the best way to heal. For example, with the Chaga, it's like I said, it's a coffee replacement. So you can take it and have very quick, almost instant effects. Whereas, for example, the turkey tail, naturally focusing on the gut, that takes a little bit more time to concentrate and to embed into the system, takes a little bit longer. Health is something that is forever changing, just like us, just like the world. And if you're looking for a quick fix, you may find that, but it may not last. Is what I would say.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree totally. Yeah, definitely. And it's also good to experiment a little bit as well in ways and kind of just see, because everyone's bodies work differently, I think, right?
Completely. And there's no one size fits all.
Yeah.
And so if your journey is different to mine, that's because we're different.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're great, and they're a little bit.
I'm great, but it's because we're all evolving and we're all learning, and that's what I love. My dad taught me this: always keep your ears open, especially to the elders, because once they're gone, that knowledge is done.
It's great insight. Yeah, I think about that a lot as well myself. Definitely. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, I want to kind of kick into gear a little bit about actually the growth of your brand, of the business as well, of MYCO. Be great to understand, because I'm very interested as well, kind of how you get started with building a business like this, right? Of growers. And, I know we went to Dr. Ash's event a couple of weeks ago, Levitas's event, where they were speaking a lot about mushrooms as well.
Absolutely.
And, be interested to hear your journey with kind of how you're actually, I guess, farming, these mushrooms. Is it done in the UK? Is it done internationally? How did that kind of start and then develop into where it is now?
Great question. So I always knew what I didn't want. So 90% of the industry is commercially mass farmed in China, which is fine. They've got some of the longest history of it. And in the universities, they are plowing lots and lots of amazing funding and research and investment. So you've always got to pay homage because they've got some of the longest usages of functional mushrooms. However, I knew that I was creating a brand for me, for my dad, for my family, for my best friends, for my neighbors. And so I knew that I wanted a brand and I wanted to source the ingredients from people that I knew. I could sit down with them, have a drink with them, get to know their families, spend time with them. And through the BMS, the societies that I was part of, I was introduced over, and I found that they were on a very similar journey to me. I found that they were creating supplements and growing supplements to give to their families, to heal themselves. And so I knew that I wanted a UK-based supply chain. There are some in Europe, some in Australia and America, and the rest is in China, as I said. But for me, that felt like too far-fetched and too far away from what I could really learn to understand and to work with very, very directly. Until I found these guys in the Peak District, realized that we were on a very, very similar kilt. They were looking for someone who could help expand the business and take it into new worlds outside of the Peak District, of which I was very well positioned to. And now it's got to the point where we're all over London, Cambridge, Oxford, Lincolnshire, up to Manchester, moving into Europe as well.
Amazing.
But that all started from knowing what I didn't want. And that was, as I said, something that I couldn't really control, whereas I wanted to know the farmers, know how they're growing it, to know what I'm putting in these supplements to give to other people.
Yeah, amazing. And do you think going the route that you took, because it sounds like in a way you did things which were, I don't want to say correct, because different versions of correct to people, but you did it in a way which felt good to you, in ways that you resonated with most. But definitely. I would not argue, but I would mention that, you know, you could have probably done, you know, moved quicker maybe in ways if you did move and kind of go to China.
I could have moved much quicker.
Yeah. So did you find that there was unexpected challenges along the way going the route that you did take?
Definitely.
Versus, and also maybe time that you could have saved if you didn't go there. And do you have any, you know, are you happy you went down this route?
I'm very happy I went down this route. But I could have definitely saved time because the supply chain in China is so vast and they really know how to grow great mushrooms. So I do say Chinese mushrooms are very good. So I could have easily just imported a ton over and packaged it and sold it very, very quickly. But for me, I wanted to understand the growth patterns, who makes it. I wanted to visit the farms. I wanted to know them well. So for me, I went through a period of about 2 years of just pure research and development. And so I naturally, I guess, took a slightly slower route to get to where I was going because I knew what I didn't want. So for me, slowly was the quickest way to get to where I was going. Whilst it could have been quicker, it wouldn't have led me to the path that I was trying to travel on.
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. And knowing you as well for the short period we have, it resonates and it makes sense. I think, you know, you kind of making the decisions that felt most comfortable to you. And I think as a founder, sometimes, and again, in this quick win society, we're moving in from talking about it in health and now in business as well. When you're trying to start a business, especially with the new social media generation where you can start a Shopify store and then hit up a few products from China.
You can be selling by this afternoon.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And they'll do the distribution for you.
Yeah. And it's just funny how, you know, it's, a lot of people are sold to, especially a lot of young people, you know, online. And it's very easy to think that just overnight you're going to start a brand and, you know, you're an example of someone who's doing it in a way, and you're saying that actually it takes a bit of time to do things properly, you know, and
it takes a bit of time.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think, to be fair, I think it's supposed to take a bit of time. You know, to build something with depth.
Agreed. Yeah, for sure. And so talking a bit more about the business world then, like, were you historically like in a family of business people? Were you always quite business minded? Did you have a steep learning curve maybe when you kind of started, when you decided I wanted to start MYCO? How did you find that journey and how has your skill sets developed in business?
Definitely. So I come from a family of business people who, my mum and dad owned their own business in IT for 35 years. They started it together and they retired with it being a very successful business, and it enabled me and my sisters to grow up happily and safely and with resources to support us. And so they were always, I always knew that I'd start a business. And when I did start that business, for example, my sisters, bless them, they were like, we don't want you to, you know, take too much risk or, you know, be in over your head. And it was my dad really, who said to me, Vivek, you're trying a few different things and that's okay. Let's explore this and see where it goes. And it gave me the confidence to be like, okay, one day I will do this. And this is what I always say, work and find yourself a little window of opportunity and then don't be afraid to jump through it. That's the hard point. Creating a window and then being ready to jump through it is very hard, when often there's a lot of external things and people saying, oh, you know, take more time. And at the point, I've been developing this for the last, you know, 3 to 4 years. That was throughout COVID. So it hasn't exactly been the most conducive for the world or for the economy or for myself. But I knew that if I didn't do it now, the window would be gone. And so I had enough support to make me believe in myself, and it was the right decision. Yeah, it has been.
Yeah, amazing. What a journey it sounds like.
Yeah.
And if we're kind of moving now into, obviously, like, especially in the TikTok generation now, and kind of what's happened over the last 4 years or so post-COVID. You know, I've been working with ecom brands for the last 7 years, and I'm very aware of how strategies and ways to kind of to scale and grow brands has changed a lot. Kind of how's that developing in terms of marketing strategies? I know that you're attending a lot more events at the moment as well, which I think for you, knowing your personality as well, I think it's a great move. That's how we've connected. And I guess like marketing generally and trying to get yourself out there, trying to get the brand more out there. What's kind of the future looking like there, and how's it been so far?
Really good question. So I know that, you know, men feel comfortable buying products from me, learning from me, understanding and talking to me, and, you know, just exploring those worlds, you know, in more detail. But a large proportion of the health and wellness space is dominated by females. Females owning the businesses, females buying the products. And so I knew that in terms of marketing, we needed to think about the female gaze and the male gaze. To effectively highlight ourselves in quite a crowded marketplace, really. And so I always work with marketeers who are men and women. If obviously, of course, you've seen our branding. It's you know, green and wholesome and you know, evergreen. The branding is very bold. It's very clear. It's as simple and as effective as it could be to attract the eye of a man, of a woman, of anyone who is looking to adapt their mind and body. And so it is difficult to market yourself in such a crowded marketplace. But once you position yourself to stand out within it in the way that I believe we have very successfully, you find your audience. Yeah, you definitely find your audience.
Yeah.
And with the events that I do, it's very transparent, because someone recently just said to me, oh, the mushroom world is like a sea of products. Whereas to be in front of you and to see your mushrooms growing live and to be able to talk to you, and you can, you know, go through each one instead of just read the marketing, you can speak the benefits. I think makes a lot of difference. So it's by being visible, by being bold, thinking about a wide audience. Is kind of where we position things.
And how important to you is relationship building and networking?
It's everything.
Yeah,
it's everything. When you're dealing with health and wellness, it's not dealing with health and wellness, you're dealing with someone's health and their wellness and their goals to move forward. So it's incredibly important to be able to engage with people, to build trust with people, to be able to look someone in the eye and say, look, this is my story. This is what happened to me, and this is where I am now. It helps build that trust in that audience. On top of that, of course, there's, you know, online and offline communities. Of course, you know, we're on social media, Instagram, TikTok, those kind of things. But we have the offline communities as well, that we are constantly nourishing and are extremely important to us.
Yeah, amazing. And I
think it's about having both.
Yeah.
And because a lot of brands increasingly are predominantly online, but we focus on in-person and online, bricks and mortar shops, you know, online and in person.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think that's kind of where, in ways, you're going to separate yourself a little bit, because I feel like you also thinking about a big trend, but it's a trend, but it doesn't mean everyone's doing it correctly. I think is kind of founder-led branding and putting the founders at the forefront of the brand. And I feel like a big strength of what I kind of can see with you is that, you know, you're very likable. You've got a lot of positive traits that I think come across really well. And so I know that you have been, now you're kind of developing the strategy a bit more, I think, with the events and kind of the more getting yourself out there. But
massively,
in the earlier days and kind of how that's developed to how it is now, I know we're doing farmers markets, and we're doing smaller conventions and things like this.
Yeah, exactly. So that's basically where we started. So in Portobello Road, so Portobello Road, Notting Hill, Alexandra Palace, East Finchley, organic farmers markets. Naturally, these are areas where people are, you know, looking for organic produce, natural produce, perhaps are looking to work on their health and wellness. I'm from North London, live in Alexandra Palace, so those kind of organic markets were the natural in for me, because I knew the audience for my products were often going to be there. So went from there to, you know, more health and wellness shops, and then built up the online and direct through the website. And as you say, now more through the events. But it did very much start from health and wellness, organic audiences, selling them to directly via distributors.
And I guess as well, if you're going to be there every weekend speaking to people, it's the best kind of like research as well, I imagine. The way you speak to people, you're getting, you're having research every weekend where you can test and learn and kind of review.
This is exactly it. It was that, as I said, I had several years of research and development where I was taking lots and lots and lots of different supplements, lots of different brands, choosing lots of things before I'd even open that door to anyone else. And then the research and development elevated into their lives and how it's affecting them and what their response was and what their feedback was and what they had tried. So it was excellent at refining the product, refining what people were looking for, and it further reinforced we're living in a very anxious world. Anxiety, over the last few years has almost reached an all-time high. Gut health is so common to have issues with that now, and lacking of sleep. Those three became so clear was the predominant problem for a lot of people. I knew that from within my own life, but to see that in so many others consistently reinforced the fact that we were in the right direction. But that's what I say about brands. If you're trying to build a brand, take your time to do your research and development and to speak to your customers. Learn from them before this is what we're doing.
It's so important.
Refine and refine and refine. And we're still refining.
Amazing. It's a never-ending cycle, I think, as well. You'll always be speaking to your customers. Even us in the agency world, it's kind of like, sometimes you need to just remind yourself, let me check in and make sure that, we're on the right path here, make sure that, this is what we're able to support them with. And I guess it's the same with a wellness product. You're trying to support people and help people. So it makes sense. And maybe this question generally, but maybe from this research that you had as well, kind of going through to these events every weekend, what was did you find that there was many people that were replacing their energy drink or their coffee with mushrooms? Obviously they're the two that come to mind, mainly. Were they the main two, or was there other things that, easily you could say, look, just replace this, to introduce it quite easily, replace the coffee in the morning, use the mushrooms instead?
Definitely. I think people are looking for caffeine alternatives, perhaps even lower caffeine, things like matcha, things like cacao, obviously mushrooms as well. People are looking to move away from the things that they always have. Teas and coffees are all you really ever get, routinely offered. But I think people are yearning for something a little bit more, something that actually adds to their nutritional profile, that adds to their body, that gives them the energy, but doesn't deplete their gut health, or we
don't want that.
we don't want that.
We don't want that.
And so people are aware of that now, and they want an alternative, and are actively seeking it out. I would say cacao and matcha became very, very popular as coffee replacements, coffee and tea replacements, along with mushroom coffees as well. So it kind of all came at the right time for us.
Amazing. And I mean,
the appetite for it.
For sure. And I've never really, obviously chocolate, but there's natural ways like cacao. I think with mushrooms, I haven't ever heard, you hear about heavy metals sometimes in things like cacao and in other supplementations and things.
Absolutely.
That are, can be, natural in this day and age now as well. Even on the, at Sainsbury's and on the shelves of Tesco's and stuff, you'll see products that are, wellness products, high in fiber, these types of ways of shout outs. But with mushrooms, I haven't really seen anything. It kind of, I don't know, it's kind of black and white in ways, it seems. It's like, especially if they're grown in certain ways, I assume, and if they're developed. But what I wanted to kind of mention as well is if someone was new to taking mushrooms, what would be you've obviously got a variety, a few of them in your product line. What would be the best strategy, let's call it, to start? Would you start with a little bit of all of them to start? Is it based on the ailment and the thing that you're trying to help? How do we get started?
Okay. How do we get started? It does go by what is the need, what is the requirement. Are you really anxious? Are you sleeping really poorly? Are you very inflamed? Are you over caffeinated and overstimulated? Where is it that you're looking to adapt? So that's usually where I start. What's the feeling that you're looking to take action against or to build? So it tends to be, I'm feeling really anxious and I've just been overthinking a lot and my sleep is really poor. Lion's mane and reishi are very, very, very popular and are what I feel a lot of people are looking for, to feel calmer, to rest deeper and to feel clearer cognitively. So I would really start with what is it that you're looking to improve, and then work from there. But it does often be a combination of mind support, gut support, sleep support, skin support.
Yeah, just all the foundational stuff, isn't it? It really comes down to.
Those were just time and time again. Yeah. And I can usually, through conversation, whether they even realize the things that they're looking to adapt, because a lot of people don't know where they want to improve, but they know that they want to improve. I can then interject and say, okay, this is where we can adapt. This is where we can put things. This is where we can reduce things. And then it tends to be quite an organic conversation. Yeah. They're like, yeah, God. Or often it's their partner and I'm talking and their partner will be like, the sleep. You feel really anxious. So it's often someone buying a product for their loved one.
Yeah. And I just want to paint the picture for the audience. We're talking about like 15 people around you on your own sometimes, or with one of your colleagues maybe. You've just literally just trying to get your attention, and it's just it's crazy. It's really impressive. It's amazing. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Some of the events can be very full on because at any one point, there's 3, 4, 5 people talking to me, wanting I feel like a barman at a really popular bar. Exactly. They're like, as you've seen. Yeah. And so it is quite high pressure. It is very high pressure, but that's always where I felt the coolest and the calmest. Wow. In high pressure situations.
How much lion's mane are you taking that morning?
Oh yeah, there's some tincture going in to keep me calm and to keep me focused. Yeah. Memory, recall. Really, really works for it. Yeah. And so we're in these environments where it's quite high demand, you can basically converse with multiple people and you're diagnosing what you believe what are the symptoms are, what you believe will help them, as well as selling to them, managing the money, managing restocking, managing then immediately the next customer. It can be quite full on, but that's actually what I enjoy the most, conversing with people directly.
Yeah, it sounds incredible. And I guess the learning that I kind of would gather from this is that a lot of businesses, a lot of people in business, they feel like, if it's not super scalable, then maybe we don't kind of invest too much time in it, especially maybe in the earlier days or whatever. Yeah. But I think there's so much benefit though to actually getting in front of people and out of them relationships. You don't know what partnerships, what things can come out of them as well. So sometimes it's them experiences and them situations that are the most magical ones. I've learned that from my own experience, kind of networking more in recent years.
Couldn't agree more. It's about stimulating conversations, about sharing ideas. And you never know who you're speaking to. You could be speaking to the CEO of a humongous health and wellness brand, or a owner of a chain of gyms, or someone who's creating an amazing event, a retreat somewhere, an investor. So you never know who you're speaking to. And I think if it's constantly just, let's think about scale. How can we get bigger and bigger? How can we increase our online sales? You miss out on a lot of the conversations that can leapfrog you.
Yeah, I agree.
Completely.
Yeah, I agree totally. And if someone wanted to get started with MYCO and kind of, I want to understand the type of routine, like these are tinctures, I think these ones, right? Is it just tinctures that we've got? And how in a daily routine, is it like in the morning brew or is it in a cold drink? How's the best to take it?
So we've got tinctures and powders. We predominantly focus on the tinctures, but as I said, Lion's Mane seems to have a marketing department of its own. Yeah. So people do ask for the powders as well. So we've got the powder there as well. In terms of a routine, we always say the body knows how to absorb a live liquid extract a lot more easily than a powdered extract or perhaps a gummy, for example. A tincture you can take sublingually under the tongue through the membrane there. It will absorb into your blood extremely efficiently. So these have been designed for maximum bioavailability and maximum absorption. It avoids the digestive tract and goes right to the bloodstream. Or you can put it in any tea, coffee, water, juice, anything you like. We always suggest that in terms of a routine, take it on a fasted belly. That tends to be most conducive. So whether it's sublingually, under the tongue, or in any drink, hot or cold, in the morning is often best. For example, lion's mane or chaga can be quite stimulating.
For energy and
energizing, mind clearing, anxiety reducing.
Yeah.
They're more in the AM,
Right.
we would say, or just before you break your fast. And then naturally with something like reishi, that's often, for example, a lot of athletes, they take it after they've done their 2-3 workouts of the day. They now need to calm down, calm the central nervous system, get their adrenals to calm and balance, get that sleep quality so you can heal the micro tears and tears that you've made. So reishi, naturally you take it before bed or more in the evening, more in the PM, later in the day. Turkey tail or, for example, tremella, you can take them more whenever you like. So yeah, it's generally chaga, lion's mane earlier, reishi later, and say turkey tail and tremella at midday.
Okay, there you go. You heard it straight there. There we go.
That's
a strong routine.
It's a strong routine, and they're designed to be taken together. They're designed to be stacked, designed to have that entourage effect.
And it makes sense though in terms of the AM. You're starting your day and energy, and then you're calming down in the evening.
You're boosting it up, and what goes up needs to calm down naturally.
Yeah. Awesome, amazing. And for MYCO and yourself, is anything exciting coming up over the rest of 2025? Any new launches or events and things like that you want to mention?
Yeah, for sure. So Tremella is our most recent drop. So we're extremely proud of that. We are increasingly working with perimenopausal and menopausal women who are experiencing those symptoms. And our combination of lion's mane, reishi, and tremella is doing really, really wonderful things. Really wonderful things for hormones in those groups. As I said, we've just launched the lion's mane powder as well. Yeah. And soon we're launching ceremonial grade cacao.
Wow.
Infused with some mushrooms as well.
I want some of that. You need to send me some of that, please.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, chocolate is a superfood.
Yeah.
Just modern chocolate is very bad for you. But in its least processed form, it's an out-and-out superfood. One of the world's most potent nutrient profiles, magnesium rich, theobromine rich, an absolute coffee replacement.
Amazing.
Cacao, ceremonial grade cacao, which I'm talking about, is what I have every day, often before sleep, combined with the reishi. It really provides a good nutrient profile, deep regenerative sleep, and is a superfood. Chocolate is a superfood. It's just been turned into a slightly unhealthy snack.
Yeah, exactly. And is that something also you are thinking hopefully is that something you can source in the UK or kind of develop, or is that going to be abroad? That's abroad.
That's from abroad. Yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah, it needs that very tropical
climate.
I
was about to ask.
London less so.
This is it. Yeah, because I know that the mushrooms in the UK. I was like, is that even possible? Yeah. But no worries. Really happy that you come on today. Where can people find you online? Is there any particular area that you prefer for people to find you?
Yeah, so find us online on social media. Find us at one of our organic farmers markets. Find us at an upcoming event. We event all over London, up to Oxfordshire, up to Manchester, moving into Europe. So find us at your favorite health and wellness spot.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.